Today I'm going to show you how we can sign in with Apple into a Firebase project within a SwiftUI application. So go ahead and check out the link in the description for the whole playlist. I talk about setting up a Firebase project, authentication, Firestore, storage, all of that part. But this one is kind of a bonus on the first video on the playlist about authentication. We're going to take it from scratch so we don't have to actually take a look at everything in there, but there are a lot of other interesting stuff about Firebase if you're interested in the playlist. Now, if you like this tutorial and this teaching style, I recommend that you check out rebeloper.com/mentoring, where you can meet me on a one-on-one Zoom meeting. If you have any questions about Swift, SwiftUI iOS, or just want to learn SwiftUI, go ahead and check it out. It's at rebeloper.com/mentoring. Now, today we are going to sign in with Apple through Firebase inside the SwiftUI project. So let me just show you what I mean by that. So I have created this demo project that we are going to build out actually today. Let me just build and run on an iPhone 15 simulator. Beforehand, I had to sign in into the simulator with a valid Apple ID. Just so you know, you actually need that. And also you need you need to be enrolled into the Apple developer development program. So that's $99 per year. Yeah, if you are an iOS developer, most probably you already are. So here we have this continue with Apple button. Let's click on it. And this sheet pops up and it will ask you, you can just edit your name right over here. You may share your email or you may hide your email. Let's just choose hide over here. And then let's continue with password. Of course, if this is your, because we are on the simulator, it's just going to continue with a password. On a real device, you will either have a Touch ID or Face ID, or if Face ID fails, of course, you will be able to type in your password like I have right over here. So let me just type in my password. Sign in. And that will take a while. We have this spinner, and there we go. We have that available. Under the hood, by the way, and we will see this in the project that we are going to build up. Now my credentials have been saved, the name and UID into a separate profile. Yeah, we're going to talk about this in just a second. And of course, I can just sign out and then tap on continue with Apple again now, because it recognizes the app that I have been already signed up with this app. It will say just continue with password. You cannot provide your way of signing up, like hiding your email or not, nor you can change your credentials. You can do that, of course, on the Firebase part, which we are going to talk about. Make sure that you just follow along the tutorial. So let me just type my password again. Just sign in. And we are here. So yeah, not a lot of interesting UI today, but a lot of really, really important code that we are going to type out. So let me just create a new project. It will be a project, and I will name this Firebase sign in with Apple example. Okay, I just typed it out correctly. Make sure that the interface is SwiftUI, because we are going to use SwiftUI. Language Swift, of course, no storage for this part. We are going to use Firebase. Okay, I'm just going to drop it onto the desktop. That's fine. Let's create that. And let's expand all of this. And I'm going to remove the canvas. Okay, so first things first, we want to create some sort of a logic of how all of this is going to be built out. So I usually just create, let's have a SwiftUI view, main view. So a main view. This is where I'm going to put my logic. And on the main view, I'm going to have being switched between these views. First of all, we have the loading view, then the auth view, new file, SwiftUI view, auth view, and then of course our content view. Also, because of the nature of how authentication works with SwiftUI, I want to create a separate profile for the logged in user on Firebase Firestore. Therefore, I'm just going to create a Swift file, and it will be called profile. This is just a simple model. Let's import SwiftUI maybe, but yeah, it doesn't really matter for this little particular struct. So it will be just a struct called profile. And I'm just going to have UID of type string, optional, and let's just have our name right over here of string again. Come on, string. Okay, so yeah, you just need to have your name. Let me just see if I missed anything on the file path. So we have our profile, content view, loading, auth, main view. Okay, and then there's this app delegate that we are going to check later on. Great. So we have our profile. We're going to talk about the profile in just a second. So this will just start off the main view. Okay, so what do we need to set up in order to have sign in with Apple available for this project? Well, you need to go into the signing and capabilities and click on the plus capability and type in sign in with Apple. Double click on that and you just update your provisioning profiles and all of that stuff. Like just wait and it's there. This is really important because you need to specify that you are actually going to use sign in with Apple. Okay, next up, you want to actually create a Firebase project. And yeah, let's just grab our bundle identifier. Let's create a brand new Firebase project. So let's just go to firebase.google.com, go to console. Of course, you need to be logged in. Click on the plus sign over there, paste the bundle identifier in, and just remove, the dot, all of that stuff. I'm not going to enable Google Analytics. You could. Just create a project that is right for you. Okay, so we are going to set up an iOS project, and for that we are going to add, for authentication, not just Firebase auth, but as you can see, if you are paying attention right over here, we are going to add our own Firebase auth SwiftUI library. So let's click on continue and set up our iOS project as I was telling you. Let's just add that bundle identifier there, again pasting it in, register the app. Next we are going to download the config file, that's a Google service info plist file. We are going to drag it into our Xcode project. Let's click on that download button and then let's go back to our Xcode project and then just simply drag and drop it to the root of your folder system. So under the assets will be just fine. If you're like me, you're just going to have a lot of info plist files downloaded. So make sure it's Google service-info.plist. That's its name. Okay. So now that we have it, let's just click on next, and it says add the Firebase SDK. Now you could just copy out this link to the Firebase iOS SDK. Most probably you will, and then just install it as a Swift package. That's fine. But with Firebase auth SwiftUI, I have this as a dependency. It has, let me just show you the package. So inside the package, we have Firebase iOS SDK, and it's going to add Firebase auth and Firebase Firestore. Now, if you want to add some more than just add this GitHub URL and then just choose whatever you like. So in this particular tutorial, we are going to need only Firebase auth and Firebase Firestore because we are going to use my Firebase auth SwiftUI library. Therefore, I'm just going to add this one. So Let me just copy that out, go into our project, not the dependencies, there we go, and then select the project, package dependencies, plus, and paste it in there. So currently it's at version 1.2.1. So yeah, just so you know, I continually upgrade all of this stuff. This tutorial is for 1.2.1. So now it's just going to check out all of the dependencies that's needed. It's just going to add it in there. Till then, let's just move on with our setup on the Firebase dashboard. Let's click on next over here. Oh yeah, now we need to add in some SwiftUI code. Yeah, it just finished it. Let's add that package. It's just resolving, and as you can see, it's adding Firebase 10.25.0 together with all of the necessary stuff that Firebase Auth SwiftUI needs. Okay, so now we need to configure, just start up Firebase, like Firebase auth.configure. We're going to do that in the app delegate file. Let me just create that app delegate file over here, Swift file, app delegate. Let's create that. And then I'm just going to copy this part out. There we go. And paste it in there. I'm going to select everything and hit Control-I for better indentation. And then I need to add the UI application app delegate adapter into our app file, just over there. Great. Now, what's next? Well, next we just go to console and enable authentication and also Firestore. So let's just go to the authentication part. Let's get started. And we are going to select Apple over here. Just click on enable. Everything is not needed for signing up inside an iOS application. So let's click on save over there. And then that's just it. You may add another provider. Firebase Auth SwiftUI also supports sign in with email and password. We're not going to cover that. We did that on the first video on this playlist. Again, the link is down in the description. Okay, so yeah, today we are going to use sign in with Apple, so that's done. And then we are going to enable Firestore database. Why do we need to enable Firestore database? Well, first of all, you most probably are going to use it in your application, but Firebase Auth SwiftUI also is going to create a profile for your user. You might want to store the user's score or favorite color or maybe their name, which we are going to use over here. Basically, some stuff that is not available on the Firebase Auth user. There are some values on the user like display name and all of that stuff, but you might want to have some more. Therefore, you are going to store that inside the Firestore database. And I assume that you are going to do that on a high-level collection. So, for example, it's going to be called profiles. We're going to see that in just a second. Let me just enable this database. A location is fine. Yeah, make sure that you are going to select all of these correctly. And the rule, I should be able to access all of this 1 month from now. Again, if you want this to be able to access through when the user is authenticated, check out the first video on the playlist. Okay, so now we are done. That's fine. And yeah, that's it. That's all we have to do inside our dashboard. Now it's time to set up our project. So first of all, we want to kind of configure. So let's just import Firebase Auth SwiftUI and then add on the main view of your application. Now it's called main view, but basically the whole application hierarchy. Just add configure Firebase Auth SwiftUI with a Firestore user collection path. As I told you, all of your profiles, kind of users, they are going to be added to this collection path. So let's just have this as profiles. There we are going to be added to our collection path named profiles. Okay, so You always have to configure this with something of a collection path name, so you can access them later. Okay, next up, let's just set up our main view. So now that you have set this up, the view modifier right over here, the configure Firebase or SwiftUI with, then you have access to the Firebase auth environment, which is really amazing. Let's just go back to the main view. Let's import Firebase auth SwiftUI, and then let's just have access to that environment. So add environment, and then add /dot, and start typing out Firebase, and there you see we have Firebase auth. And this will be private var, and yeah, let's just have it as Firebase auth. Okay, so what are we going to have on this main view? Let's have a group, because we are going to switch through. So switch through Firebase auths, Firebase, come on, auth. Oh, why doesn't it autocomplete? I'm just going to copy and paste it there. So Firebase auth has a auth state. There we go. And this auth state has some values. So let's add them. Maybe, no, it's not going to autocomplete, unfortunately. So let's have some cases. Case dot, and you can see there's authenticated, authenticating, loading, and not authenticating. Now, when we are loading, it's basically when we are not sure in which state we are. So we're going to start with that. And then, because it's just a progress view, I'm also going to add the authenticating part also over here. So that will be our loading view. What does authenticating mean? Well, when we are still processing some data with the sign in with Apple part of our application. Just going to communicate with Apple and not Firebase. That's one the loading view. Another case is authenticate, not authenticated. Let's just choose not authenticated. That will be our auth view. And the final case will be authenticated. That will be our content view. So according to the auth state, which has Firebase auth, the application will actually choose between these three views, or maybe four if you want to add a difference for loading and authenticating. So let's start off with the loading view. The loading view, well, I'm just going to keep it simple. I'm just going to add a progress view right over here. It's just a simple spinner. Okay, what about the auth view? Well, inside the auth view, I want to add this kind of sign in with Apple button. So for that, we are going to need a vertical stack, and it's just going to push everything down. So let's just have a spacer there. And also let's add a padding so it would just look better. And let's just import Firebase auth SwiftUI in here. And let's add a button. So you are just going to create a simple button as you normally would do. You can go with the title and action. I prefer the action and label because then I can add any custom label that I would like, but you can use the title and action if you wanted to. So action and a label. The action, let me just add, first of all, the label. Let's talk about the label. Well, you can add anything right over here, but Firebase auth SwiftUI has kind of this predefined sign in with Apple buttons. So let's just have a sign in with Apple label. You can just go with the default one. It will just say continue with Apple, or you can just choose the one with the type. Let me just show you what the type is. And also, yeah, you can just use the one with a string. Just add any string for the title. It will just give you that default sign in with Apple type. And you can also choose a type of sign in with Apple label type. Let's just choose this one, for example. If I just hit dot right over here, you will see continue with Apple, sign in, sign up, or with a custom text. The custom text is the same, the one with the string. Let's just go with continue with Apple. I prefer that. Or you can just simply remove this because continue with Apple is the default value for sign in with Apple label. Okay, so that will be the sign in with Apple label. And then let's just have authenticate, a function right over here, which is going to be added down there outside of the body. Okay, whew, we typed quite a lot of code. Let's just see if we are just going to be presented with the auth view. I'm just going to build and run, and let's see. Hopefully, we are going to just see a sign in with Apple button on the auth view, what we can see right over here. Hopefully, I set up everything correctly. This will take a while. The first build, it's just going to build the Firebase SDK and all of that stuff. So let me just take a sip of water. Build has succeeded, which is nice. It's attaching to our project. Oh, I just selected the Pro. Let me just close this because I do need to be inside, on the setup, on the settings app. I do need to be able to load my, the current user. So let me just go back over here. Build succeeded. There we go. We have a continue with Apple button, and we can just click on this. Of course, it will just not do anything. Okay, so now it's time to sign in. So how can we do that? Let's go back to the auth view, and right over here under authenticate, we are going to grab from, is it in the main view? Yes, I'm just going to copy out Firebase auth. Let's go back to our auth view and add that environment. We have access to it because we configured Firebase auth SwiftUI with that profiles collection path name. Okay, so now we can just say Firebase auth dot, and there is a continue with Apple. You may choose this one with the completion, but there is only one with the completion. Unfortunately, I could not make it to asynchronously throwing, but that's okay. So we are going to say continue with Apple on the completion, and you are going to get back here a result with an optional user and an error. So let me just see, it will be a result. There we go. And then we are going to switch through the result. There we go. It's just going to have us this automatically completed. We're going to have here a user. That will be an optional user, and here a failure. So for the failure, I'm just going to print out the failures. Failures, localized description. Localized description. And what about the user? We're going to get back here a user, and it was an optional user. And we need to add something right over here. That's why we have this error right over here. Okay, so this user will be given to you when you are signing up for this particular app for the first time. Otherwise, it will just give you simply a nil value right over here. Because and why, on the second or third sign in, why are we giving here back a nil? Well, that's because you want to store this profile, this user's data, only when we are signing up on the very first sign in with Apple. Otherwise, you just want to ignore, you don't want to override the data that's already on the Firestore database. And we're also going to have a failure part. Therefore, you don't want to switch, right over here, you don't want to switch immediately. It's not automatically switching to authenticated. You want to switch to authenticated when you save that data. Let's just go back to the auth view, and it's going to be right over here. We are going to save it. So how do we save it? Well, we are going to use Firebase, Firestore. You could just do this on, let's just import Firebase Firestore here. I'm just going to have it as a simple function like func save profile. And I'm just going to have added a user right over here, and that's it. We are just going to check if we are having a user. So if let user, then we are just going to save profile with that user. And then after that, we are just simply going to say Firebase auth dot auth state equals dot authenticated. So after the save profile. Of course, yeah, we need to have a completion right over here. Let me just take a sneak peek of how I implemented this. Yeah, and by the way, because this is a lot of code, I'm just going to create that right over here. I'm just going to copy it out and explain it. It's a little bit easier on my end also. So let's just have that over there. So now we want to have an optional user, so we can just simply not check over here on the success value. So if we have a user, we create this profile with the UID. The user has a UID and the display name. Yeah, cannot find user. We need to import Firebase auth for that. Okay, so and profile has to be encodable. I forget about that. We need to be codable, but most probably you are going to be codable anyway. Okay, so now we can set the data. We create the reference to the profile. Remember, we have set this up over here. Okay, so it's just going to check next time. Well, it's checked also the first time, but it's just going to check next time too. Profiles, document user UID. We want to set the UID so we can, reference it later. It's just going to be this connection between the authentication part user and then the Firestore part profile. Okay, we're just going to set the data. If there is an error, we're just going to print out the error currently. Go ahead and check out one of my previous videos on SwiftUI alerts. Yeah, it's a GitHub repository. And then you can just have this error presented inside the alert with a single line. Okay, Firebase auth, we are just going to set that to the auth state of not authenticated. Otherwise, we are just going to say we are authenticated. Okay, and yeah, that's it. We are just going to save that profile. And also right over here, if there are any issues, we are going to set the not authenticated right over there. So Firebase auth state not authenticated. And that's it. We are basically done. Let's see how this works in action. So I'm just going to build and run once more. And yeah, hopefully I added everything as it should be. Remember, you need to set the profile manually yourself. This could not be done with my library because there are a lot of other stuff. Maybe you want to share favorite color or whatever right off the bat when you are creating your profile. So again, it says we may choose, other first name and last name if we wanted to. Let's hide our name again. It doesn't really matter. And then let's continue with passcode, my password. Let me just type that again. Sign in. So now it's signing in with Apple. It's going to slide it down, and now it's still working because it's saving it to the Firestore database, this profile that we added, save profile. That's why we have that spinner even after the sheet has been dismissed. And we have hello world. How nice. So let me just see if it just persisted. Let's build and run once more. There we go. We are inside. Let's double check on the database. It's really nice. So first of all, the authentication part, we have this identifier, signed provider Apple, and here we have our user UID, MSH. It starts with MSH. Let's go to the Firestore database and let's see if we have a collection called profiles. And inside that, we have one with a key of MSH, and the UID is right over here. I can see that the display name, it did not come through. I have to check on that, but make sure that you update your version of the Firebase or SwiftUI. there must be a bug in the code. But the profile is there, and bug fix is coming shortly. Usually, hopefully after this live has been added. So therefore, the version should not be 1.2.1, but a little bit greater than that. Okay, so now that we have that, let's go ahead and log out, because now, we have been logged in, but how can we log out? And that couldn't be simpler. Let's go to our content view and let's create a new button. So a button of sign out. Oh, we need quotes over there. And the action of sign out. Let me just copy and create that function for us. Func sign out. Okay, let's import Firebase auth SwiftUI. There we go. And then on the sign out, of course, we do need to have access to that Firebase auth environment. Let me just copy that out and paste it in there. Firebase auth. And this will throw, I already know that this will be a throwing function, so I'm just going to put it into the do catch statement, and I'm just going to print out the errors localized description. So try Firebase auth dot, and you just type out sign out. As you can see, it's just going to throw. And that's it. It's just going to sign out our user. Let's build and run. And let's see that in action. It should be really, really nice. It's just going to sign us out. So sign out. We just switched to the auth view. Of course, you may add an alert right over here. Do you really want to sign out? Whatever. You just go and sign out. Let me just stop this and let's build and run once more so we make sure that we are actually signed out. There we go. And then let's just continue with Apple now. You can see it's just going to continue with password. There we go. Let's sign in. Let's wait for that. And now it's checking if we have already a profile in place. And because we already have, it is not going to overwrite anything. Let's just double check on that. Let me just refresh this one. And indeed, we just have that MSH, and under the authentication, it's MSH. Again, I'm just going to add in our display name later on to the Firebase auth SwiftUI. Make sure to check that out, github.com/Rebeloper/Firebase auth SwiftUI. And if you are interested in a one-on-one coaching, go ahead and check out Rebeloper.com/mentoring when you can meet with me.